Alright, so in this video we're going to go ahead and export objects from Blender into Unity. It's going to require an add-on, but it is a free add-on, so go ahead and check the description below the video. You'll find a link to a Unity FBX Exporter. So download that file, just click install it from the zip file or the py file, so you might need to extract it and install it from that py file. But once you do, click a check mark next to it and save your preferences, and that'll enable it. And this thing's created by Angel Eddie Garcia here. Awesome add-on. It's the best exporter I've found for Unity, for Blender anyways. Blender to Unity. And nonetheless, you're going to want this thing. So what this does is if you click File, Export, you now get Unity FBX Export. Right click this, add it to your quick favorites. So if you press the Q key, I have hard ops, so I get a hard ops menu, but you'll usually just have the quick favorites here. You can see Unity FBX Export. All right, great. So when you click on this thing, it's going to go straight to export screen, and it has a couple options, but most notably, you're going to want to use selected objects only. And if you're doing armatures or whatever, you have some options here, so you can add leaf bones, some interesting things. It should work with animation, but I haven't tried it, so I don't know for sure. But nonetheless, what we're going to do is we're going to actually prep a model real quick so we can get this into Unity. Actually, we'll just work on this default cube first. What we're going to do is assign a material to it. Click New here. I'm going to assign a base color image texture. Click Open. And I have a texture that I've created, checker pattern, nothing crazy. And I'm going to rename this checker, this material, checker material. It's a good idea to organize things and name everything exactly how you want them. And so for this, I just want it to be called cube, right? Nothing special. Has a material applied to it. I can click this little icon here, drop down, click texture. You can see it displayed now in the viewport. This is just a color map. We're not going to get too into materials here. We're just going to go over some basics. But nonetheless, this model is now ready to go. If I press the N key, one thing you want to consider here, or you really want to do this, is you want to make sure your scale is all at 1. And your rotational values are at 0. So if they aren't, you need to press Control A and apply rotation and scale. The location should be zeroed out. If you created this object somewhere else, the origin point is pretty important as well. So you can modify the origin point by going into edit mode, selecting a vertex where you want the origin point to be placed, or if you want it placed in between, like say 2 edges, you can do that. Or on a certain face, you can do that as well. So we'll do a vertex first. Press Shift S and do cursor to selected. I'm using machine tools, so I'm actually going to hold Alt and do to vert, and you'll see that it does a number like so. If we do object set origin to 3D cursor, it will now be placed at that corner. And the same would work with the face here. So we could do Shift S, cursor to selected, and then do go back to object mode, set origin to 3D cursor. There you go, just like that. Machine tools is awesome because you don't have to do all that. You can actually just select this vert, press Shift S, and do Alt select to vert, origin to vert. There, awesome. And it repositions it real quick. But you will notice that the location is off. If you apply location, what it does is it sends the origin point back to the scene center. That's not what we want to do. So instead, just hover over this field here and backspace on it, and it will return it all to default values, which just happens to be 0 in the world space. If I turn on the X and Y coordinates here in the grid floor, you'll see that's what's going on anyways. So the world origin's fairly important. Just keep that in mind. So as long as your model's set up correctly in this manner, you shouldn't have no problem exporting it and using it inside of Unity. So press the Q key, Unity FBX. I'm going to do selected object only. Go to your project folder for your Unity project, wherever you save that at. In my case, I have my project folder here, test project, and I have an assets folder. I'm going to click that, and I can export this cube to this projects folder. So boom, done like that. Now in Unity, it's automatically going to import it because it's under assets here, not scenes, but it's going to automatically import it because we're putting it into the project folder, right? And as it comes in, the way we have it set up, you'll notice if we expand it out, it comes in with an embedded material. Now, embedded materials you can't modify, so it's kind of useless, but you can extract these just by simply clicking extract here. You can also remap it to something that might already exist. There's going to be times that you can't find this remap button, and it might be problematic. And extracting the same material over and over, let's say you had multiple objects that you exported and they all had the same material, you're going to click extract. It's going to create checker material 1, checker material 2, 3, 4. So that's kind of useless. So let's actually just kind of demonstrate that real quick by exporting again. I'm going to export cube 2 with the same settings. Okay, and now I'm going to remove the material and I'm going to export one more without any setting or without any material on it. Okay, so we're going to run into this problem here. These two cubes now have embedded materials, right? And so keep that in mind. If I was to try to remap this, you'll see we have checker material. They start piling up. So if this one had a checker material to it, it would be 3 there now. It'd be problematic. But so what we're going to do is we're going to extract one of them. So we're going to click extract material. I'm going to just place it right in my assets folder here for now. And you can see it comes out like so. All right, this is great. I may want to import new asset. I'm going to go to my textures folder and import that checker pattern. Okay, and I don't have to make any configuration changes on that. The main material here, I can change the albedo to the checker material. Right, and you'll see this one automatically kind of got it assigned to it while this one didn't, or didn't update with it anyways, but it is applied. So it's pretty interesting how this kind of works out, but this is what you're looking for, the differences between your materials here, because every embedded one is going to create a material that's in this list. What you're looking for is .mat. If it says .fbx, it's an embedded one, so keep that in mind. So .mat, that's what you want. Okay, so you can quickly apply these and do it like so. This last one doesn't have the remap option available. Okay, so what you have to do is change it to standard legacy, click apply, and you should see it come up here. It says on demand remap. If it doesn't, it might say search for remap or something. There's some kind of little button usually. And but you can easily apply that as well. So they're all using that material right there now. Okay, and you'll see that their embedded materials are gone. And you want to stay on top of this because you could end up at a certain point you'll just have like maybe dozens of the same material over and over, and it becomes annoying. So keep that in mind. And right, so I like to keep my folders pretty neat and organized. So a lot of times I'll create a textures folder, and I'll create a static mesh folder, and I'll create a material folder as well. This is just how I personally work. There's no right and wrong answer here. You can set up your you organize things whatever way you want. So I'll drop my material into materials, textures into textures, and my static meshes into static meshes here. And that's pretty much it. And then you can make subcategories if you want. So you have like props or building pieces or whatever the case. Nice, neat, clean, organized. Okay, so static meshes, we don't really need 3 of these, so we're going to delete them. We only need the 1 cube for now. If we drag it out into the 3D space here, you can see it came in just fine. We can press, we can place it at 0, 0, 0, so it's at the world origin in Unity here. And you'll see that even the pivot point comes in with it. The pivot you can change to right here. So press Z, you can toggle between center and pivot. X will toggle between local coordinates and global coordinates. And that's pretty easy, right? It's not too complicated. It gets a little bit more fun. You can actually create LODs inside of Blender and just have them pretty much automatically show up inside of Unity. So in this case, I'm going to duplicate this. And the way you do this is you have to use a suffix. So one of these is going to be called LOD0, which is going to be the most detailed object. And the other one, they have to be named exactly the same except for underscore LOD. And it's going to change to 1. So you can do like an LOD2, an LOD3 model, so you can have things break down less and less detailed. LOD0 is going to be your most detailed though. And in this situation, all I'm going to do is apply a bevel modifier to it. And we're going to go ahead and do that. You'll see these objects kind of lay on top of one another. Not a big deal. I'm going to shade it smooth. And that should do it for the most part. Actually, I'm going to click Normals Auto Smooth here. And we'll adjust that bevel in a second. We're going to do the same for the other model here. So this bevel modifier, I do want it to look smooth though. And right now it just needs an extra. I'm going to put it at 4 segments. That should work out fine. All right, so we can select both of these objects, export them out as Unity FBX, and go to our static mesh folder now. We're just going to replace that object. And you'll see it's updated here in the scene. So we have cube. It's at LOD0. If we back away from it, it'll switch over to LOD1 at some point. You can adjust these values on when it's going to swap on over. This can be a little bit finicky though. I'm just going to give you an example here on how this behaves. So right now, LOD0, LOD1, LOD0, LOD1. It does take, you know, this does influence when it's going to swap and how far away you are. You can use the camera just to view the swap if you want. But the trick is, if I was to drag this cube out again somewhere else, this one's going to have a different ratio. So you can see here, LOD1, LOD0, they're different. You can update the importer, and so it will automatically come in with these settings. We can update it. And a lot of times it will actually update the other instances of this mesh in your scene. Not always though. So if I take this and I duplicate it out a couple times real quick, I have snapping on for global coordinates here, but right now it looks fine and it's doing as we expect for the most part, right? You can see that's doing this number. They're all the same. Now let's say I update this one and I want to make it way closer, and I do update to importer. All right, you're going to notice that one is like so. This one is okay, so they're both sharing, but this one does not, and this one does not. Well, actually that one does, doesn't it? So this one isn't, for whatever reason. This is just kind of the weird way the Unity LOD system behaves. It can mess you up pretty bad when you're working on a big environment and you need to adjust all your LODs at one time. I'm pretty sure you can actually create a script to automatically revert all this. There might even be something that already exists in the engine. I just don't know about it. But the way you kind of fix this, you select the objects that are misbehaving, and this little tab here, modified components, you can just click revert. And if you revert it, it should take on the same values now. You might have to play around with those settings a little bit, try revert or try reset. It's something like that. And if worse comes to worse, just drag out a new object and replace it. Generally speaking though, that's going to work out okay. When you import these models, besides playing with the materials, you could click the model tab here. You want to make sure, yeah, and if you didn't understand how I got there, it's a materials tab. The models tab though is what usually you start on. So generate colliders, you can check this so that this will generate automatic colliders, basically mesh colliders. That's going to allow your characters to bump in it and all that fun stuff. It's not perfect, but just keep this in mind. Generally speaking, convex shapes work pretty well. Concave shapes don't work as well usually, but there's ways to tweak and adjust these things as you create your scenes and you add in some programming or scripting. There's all kinds of fun stuff you can do there, so keep that in mind. Generate light maps. So usually when you bake out your texture lighting, you need light maps to do that. So automatically generating light maps, UVs, is great. And it does need UVs to do this. So you can create these UVs in Blender itself. When you go to your object data panel, you'll realize if you scroll out UV map, you only have one UV map. Light maps you can do manually. You can create a second UV map, and that should work just fine. Okay, so you don't have to let Unity do it, but generally speaking, I give Unity a shot, and anything it doesn't get right or it gets wrong or it can't handle, I'll come back and manually do it afterwards. So keep that in mind. Now, so we went over quite a bit so far. I do want to talk about creating prefabs. Now, these LOD models act like prefabs to some degree, but they're really not. And on a side note, you can select the sub-objects here, right? So don't accidentally move one, okay? Because if you were to go back and it LODs, it's going to, well, I gotta go forward, I guess. It's going to shift that model. So you can see, that's not what you want, right? You want them to line up. Keep that in mind. All right. Now, I'm going to delete this. Instead, what I'm going to do is, a lot of times I'll actually create a prefab folder just to keep prefabs in, because I really like to do different kinds of modular kits that break down into nitty-gritty little components, but then I like to set up like whole systems as well that are much larger. And so these prefabs, we're going to go in here. We're going to create one to get started. Create prefab, and we're going to call this Unit 1. Okay. And I'm going to go into Blender here. We're going to hide these. I'm going to create another cube. Go into edit mode straight away. You can see the 3D cursor was placed over here. So it's going to create way over here off to the side. A lot of times that bothers me. I'll do a Shift S and do to origin. Okay, so Shift S, cursor to the world origin. Shift A now. I create my cube. I can go into edit mode right away. I already know where my origin point's going to be. So as long as you're working in edit mode, you're not going to mess that up. What I do want to do though is put it in a corner. I want to make this about 3 meters tall at least. So there we go. I'm going to make it like a little apartment complex unit real quick. And so this is going to be on you, on what you create and how you create it, and how you want it to look and behave. Now, something to keep in mind, Y and negative Y. Negative Y is the front, okay? So you want your object's front to face down negative Y, so it should be looking down that way, okay? And in this section here, I just want to maybe, let's do a 1 meter kind of section there like that. And I can add in a roof. I don't want to do too much modeling here for this tutorial, so it's really about just importing and exporting. But I do want to do a certain amount here, which I didn't do correctly. It would help if I did this right the first time. Because what I want is this to be cut out, so like so. Could have did that at the top as well, but we'll just go ahead and snap it up. So I am using increment snapping. A lot of times I'll put it on absolute grid snap. I toggle this on and off. Basically, absolute grid snap is going to let you move directly onto the grid. And that's good if you're working with modular environments, so keep that in mind. And let's go ahead and go finish this thing up real quick. I don't want to get too crazy with it, but I'm going to grab here and here, duplicate, separate selection. All I want to do is make what appears to be over here like a window. Okay, so you could do cutouts into this and do parallax, like parallax interiors and fun stuff like that. And you can set up doorways and other fun stuff. All right, so there we go. Put in air conditioning units on the side or whatever the case may be. It really depends on what you're trying to create. Personally, I would take this and make a door, and I would make a window as separate objects. So I would do at the base here against the wall, I'd place my origin point there. And on the door, I would probably place the origin point at the bottom as well. Okay. And so they're not, this isn't going to be like stellar modeling, but let's just get through it. So name this door. We're going to name this window. Okay. And this is going to be unit 1, or let's just call it unit A. Now the way this ends up working out is we can create additional units if needed, right? But maybe we want to just like inverse this, so we can press Control M and mirror, and it's going to do this number. Here's a trick. Click this, go to backface culling, turn that on, because what we're about to do, and you'll notice when we inverted it, it turned to scale to -1. So when I press Control A and apply scale, it's going to invert all the normals. So I got to press Alt N, recalculate outside. So now we have a reverse unit here. So we can call this one unit B or something. I don't know. Something like that anyways. So we can position the door here at location 0, the window at 0, make sure the scale and rotation is good. Same for this, it's at 0. This needs to be at 0 as well. So this is just the way it's going to work out, and you can play with this however you want. Generally speaking, I like to have everything on the same side, so I'm going to do that number. All right, and it can all pile up on top of each other and become disorienting. This little list eventually will get too small, so I'm going to hover over this until we get the double arrows, right click, join areas, and up here in the top left, you see that little arrow or crosshair or whatever, click and drag, click this button, and we are going to do a outliner. And the outliner is now much larger. We can see what we're doing a lot easier. So we can select different objects as we need them, or we can hide them or unhide them as needed as well. You can also click and drag to hide a lot of things at the same time. You can press Alt H to unhide everything, or Shift H or H. You get the idea, right? All right, so we're creating these components now that we're going to need to create an environment, right? So unit A, unit B, we have this cube, which we don't want to look at right now. I don't care about. Don't care about that one either. So we're going to select the door. It's all zeroed out in 1. So we're going to do export. We're going to do door. That's all we're doing. We're not going to do LODs for these right now. We're going to do unit A. Oh, I duplicated by accident. That's B. Unit A. So unit. If I can type unit A. Unit B now. We could do the window. You can name these like window 1, 2, 3, or window A, B, C, etc. But we're not going to get that detailed. So a lot of these need to be UV mapped. We haven't even done that. So we're just going to import all these objects real quick. So we got static mesh. We got cube, door A, unit B, all this fun stuff. We can select these all at the same time. We can check generate colliders, generate light map UVs, click apply. That's going to work. You can't do that with the materials, unfortunately, but we can go through it rather quickly. So we could do standard, apply, remap. We'll do the checker patterns, apply it. So it does take a little bit of setup here. And we'll do the same thing here. Oh, apply, there you go. And apply. So now we got this object created. Okay. The pivot point's technically in the right spot, but I don't personally care for that. I'd probably put it in the back right for some reason, but now we got this one here. Right. And so you can see how this is going to possibly fit together. It's not too crazy right now, but you getting the idea, right? So we did create that prefab. Here's a trick. Edit down here at the bottom, grid and snap settings, click it. This little window is vitally important when you're working with modular kits, so or modular components, so keep that in mind. I snap it down here, or place it down there. In my prefab, I'm going to create it. I am going to create a game object, 3D object cube. I do want to just mark the center of this area because you're going to lose it when you click somewhere. If you click here, it might show it again, but I like to just visually see it. So I can go to my static mesh now. I'm going to drag out a little section like this, and I want to place this at 0, 0, 0 real quick. So this is going to line up perfectly to that center point. I don't need that cube now. And I do want to also, I always like to just hit all axes here. To me, that's pretty important. So you could decorate this one unit if you really wanted to as a prefab, and then put like railings on it, balconies, windows, put interiors inside of it that you might see, do like the parallax occlusion interior, all kinds of other fun stuff. The trick here is I'm just going to create like a combination of units, so I'm not doing all that. And so like I might place this near here, click align all axes, and it should line up pretty well. I am snapping because I'm on global and I have snap enabled, so I could do some weird numbers like this and start creating like office spaces. I could press Control D while both of those are selected, and I can lay them out like so as well. All right. I can go ahead and apply. And go ahead and place doors in here. You'll see that it, for the most part, lines up pretty well, but I can apply to all axes. Move it over a little bit. You'll see that it snaps a little bit too much. I can hold Control and snap it a little bit less. And that might be pretty good for what you're trying to do. It might not be. It might not be detailed enough. If that's the case, you can change it from 0.2 to 0.1, and it should let you get a little bit more precise. I'm going to realign on the axis here, though, and hold Control and move it back. There you go. Should line up with my grid in Blender. And that's just what's going to happen. So once I get it into these kind of positions, Control D, it's a lot easier to just duplicate things. So you can see we have like this door going around now. If I press Control D, I can bring it down. Do something like that. Bring it up. There you go. Yeah, it's so much easier to work with it like that. Same thing for the windows here. Drag it in, drop it in, align to all axes, and we're going to zoom in on it. And sometimes it can be a little bit hard to line things up in the center of something, but close enough is good for me for now. Right? We'll bring it on back here. should, for the most part, snap really close to where it needs to be. And right now it looks good. I don't think it's perfect, but it's close. This one might need to go over to about here. So having a good UV texture helps for this kind of blockout setup here. All right, so now we've created this kind of setup here, which apparently, I didn't realize this, but this is too far back. So this is going to be fun. We have to select, I'm going to go to wireframe real quick. I want to select this door here, pull it forward. And same with this one. I should only have to pull it forward once, but I think we'll do twice. Let's see where it's at. Yeah, I only had to do once. Oh, okay. I guess I didn't want to do that. So hold control while you do that. There you go. So we probably got to do those windows too. Fortunately, you can select off the list. And so you can select two at the same time. Not always doable. You might want to look at the wireframes, but all right. So this is just kind of one little setup here. Not too bad. It's a prefab, so we can just back out of it. Boom, done. And we can use that prefab, drop it in here, place it at 0, 0, 0 real quick. Normally it would go towards the terrain, and then you just click align on axis. But so we can make more or less like a skyscraper if we wanted, right? That checker patterns around. Or we could try doing like a rotation here. Hold control before you rotate to get a perfect 90 degrees, by the way. Otherwise, you're going to get some off number. So we can try doing this number where we make city blocks and things. And it's not going to kill you to do this now. It's going to be much simpler than trying to model every unit individually. So you make multiples of these, and it's going to be extremely efficient, because what ends up happening, let's say we made a shopping center or something right here, I don't know, some kind of corner apartment complex. We can update this model in Blender, so we can work on different aspects of it, including the LODs if we wanted to. So let's do unit A here. And let's say unit A, we want to let's add a little section right here that sticks out. Let's just click E and hold control and do that number. It's not technically 100%, but 100% correct because it's doing this number under here. So there's certain things we'd want to do to fix that. But let's say we did something like that and we wanted a door or something there. We can just re-export this. So unit A, done. And now back in Unity here, you'll see it already updated. You probably can't see it well. Let's turn on wireframes. But all of those A units right there will have that mesh modified now. So you can do all kinds of things. You can add different little cuts and extrusions and have a lot of fun with it, really, because you can do something like something like this. And let's do, let's just delete this real quick. We're going to extrude inwards to there. Delete that one too. Merge it. Now the window was sitting there. So now we can do the export again. And that was unit A. So this is a process that you can go back and forth with for a long time and get things to look just the way you want. You'll notice that moving that window there, it's now out of place. So you can go back into your prefab. And this wasn't supposed to be a video about prefabs, but you can select those and pull them back to the section there if it will line up with it. It's pretty close. I don't think it's quite right, but I'm going to turn grid snap off and just get as close as I can. Something like that. All right. So these kinds of things start to make sense, right? Because you can do whatever you want for the most part. You want balconies, right? Let's just duplicate this, separate it, go edit, and it's already in the right position for the most part. So we should be able to extrude this. There we go. And we're going to do, we don't need it out that far, but maybe like right here. We'll bevel these corners. We're going to grab that back face and we're going to just pull it through, even though this is technically wrong. But what I want to do here is extrude up to an inset. Okay, let's do this. Let's delete this back face. We'll delete that for now. We're going to add a cut here and a cut there. And we should be able to line these up on the grid, actually. Like that, something like that anyways. We'll delete those bottom faces. This top one here, we didn't delete it. Press I, and when you press B, it should do an inset like this now. I'm going to bring it back down a little bit. Select that back face, get rid of it. So you can make little attachments and stuff for certain units and then create something like a balcony. So say balcony, right? This is going to go to this side here. This side doesn't have a balcony for it made yet. So you'd have to make a balcony for that side, I guess, if you wanted. Or you could just center the pivot on this so that it's on the back side towards the wall. So you can do Shift S, set your pivot somewhere like so, and then zero it out. So now you can just do, I probably wouldn't do a lip like that, to be honest, for a wall, but we'll just go ahead and use what we got. So we can do, I want to rename it. I don't know why I'm not. Let's just rename it. So it's centered up, it's 0 to 1, right? So Unity FBX. And do balcony, export, and our prefab here now. Balcony will come in. We do want to reassign the material real quick. Don't let that get out of hand. Model. Okay, and we're not even worrying about UV maps and materials for the most part, but we can align this to all axes. We can snap it to the grid. It should work just fine. And so this was that upper floor balcony. And you can see it doesn't line up real well, okay? It's just the nature of using something centered, and it's just not going to usually line up real well, so you have to do a little bit of manual placement here. And in this case, it's not a big deal, but it can be in some situations. So you can see here, it doesn't really line up. And that's just something to be expected from this one. Yeah, I don't like that at all. This one lined up like so. This one did not. It should be off. It looks off. You should be off a little bit. Yep. And it's going to do this because it really needs like a half movement, so 0.05. And this is this is just showing you like how this starts to become an issue. It's going to keep it's going to keep doing that until you use a half-meter increment or a tenth of a meter. So like what is that, 1/20th of a meter, something like that. Yeah. So all right, this balcony now on the bottom floor. Let's see what happens. Let's try it right here. You see it doesn't quite line up. All right, there we go. I don't know if the bottom floor needs a balcony, but it has one. And that's pretty smooth, even though I'm snapping. So there was a door here, right? No, go back to prefab. I wasn't done. I swear I had doors right here. Where'd they go? Inside the wall. There's one. Where's the other one? The other one's in the right spot? What? No, that's not. There it is. We got both of those selected. Go ahead and move them out. It's good to have a little bit of a space there, but you could cut door frames in. You can do all kinds of fun stuff, put glass in windows and frames for the windows. Just keep that in mind. You're not limited to what I'm doing right now. But you can see as you update your prefab, you can bring in models. You can lodge your models in your prefab. It'll all come in as one solid chunk by the end of it. And so this is just going to allow you to create nonsense like super fast. If I was to duplicate this and then rotate it 180 degrees, you can see these will line up in the front and the back for the most part. Like so. Should be anyways. Yep. And maybe I don't want the side here. Maybe I want to do just like a apartment building or something. And you thought this was just going to be Unity FBX exported. Here we go. And so this kind of modular system is usually what a lot of different VFX artists use to create just really complicated looking cities real fast. It's not a big deal. Even game studios do this. So Unity themselves demonstrated this kind of technique with one of their Unity projects. So it's pretty cool. It works. It doesn't look all that impressive right now because, well, it's all messed up mapping and whatnot. But remember, we have all these different game objects in here. So we could take like the window and just do like a quick smart UV project on it. We can do that for pretty much everything. So I'm going to grab all of it. Except we'll do the balcony too. So door, balcony, units, all that. Go into edit mode, select it all, press U, smart UV project. Just a quick and dirty UV map that's going to make the checker pattern make sense. And now I can export these out. So window, we're going to export it out. There we go. Unit B, we'll go ahead and export that out. Save this file, by the way. I haven't saved it yet. So do save your files. And we're going to do door, but you can see how fast the exports become now. It's really not that bad. That should have been it right now. The objects have to be visible for you to export them. But just make sure you have selected object only. Otherwise, you're going to run into trouble. And so back in here now, the UV maps were updated a little. Apparently, I didn't do the balcony. Let's do that one too. Boom, just like that. It should be done. And there we go. They came in at different scales, so the checker maps also help you determine your texel density a little bit. And in this case, it's all over the place, but that's because these units are so big compared to these other small pieces. Nonetheless, It's kind of hard to see it on that side. And but you get the idea. You create more interest if you were to change shapes and create different kinds of units and stack them in different patterns and fun stuff like that. But this is the basic idea of it. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. And I know it was pretty lengthy, but we went over quite a lot here that wasn't just focused on only exporting, but also like efficient ways of exporting models and how you can use them with prefabs and make really complicated looking stuff and continuously update them. So you can change the LODs, you can add the LODs, take LODs away. You can, there's all kinds of stuff you can do with this technique, right? So I've never seen anybody put a Unity tutorial out that talks about things like this in this manner for just basic model exporting from Blender to Unity or anything. It takes a lot of the trial and error out of it, so you'll be more efficient at what you do. So if you did stick around for the whole thing, thanks for doing so. I hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you have any suggestions or comments on things you want to see in the future, just leave them here in the comments section. And you know, I check them and I do read them. So once again, thanks for watching, and until next time, take care. All right.